otherwise, yes. You want it framed?
I don't think so.
No. Yeah, here it is as a proclamation. It's a long read. I don't even know if I want.
We don't need.
I'm almost there. It looks, all I have to do is put it'll swing. It should.
The time is 5:30. It is now, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Gama,
Here.
Munoz Schnapp,
Here.
Rollins,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hernandez,
Here.
and Mayor Berg.
Here. All present. See nobody in the audience, so our public comment we can forego. If our city attorney would please announce the closed session items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are 4 closed session items tonight. The first, number 1, is public employee performance evaluation. The position is city manager. The authority is Government Code Section 54957, sub B, sub 1. The next 2 are both labor negotiations. The authority for both is Government Code Section 54957.6. The first of those 2 is negotiations with the Port Hueneme Police Officers Association. The agency designated representatives are Steve M. Berliner, Special Counsel, Joseph M. Tanner, Interim Deputy City Manager, and Ken McDonald, Finance Director. The second one of the labor matters is with the Service Employees International Union Local 721. The agency designated representatives are the same as in the prior matter. The fourth matter is a conference with property negotiators. Authority is Government Code Section 54956.8. The property is the northeast corner of San Pedro Street and C Street, Port Hueneme, California, 93041. The agency negotiators are Rod Butler, City Manager, Tony Stewart, Community Development Director, Steve Kinney, Consultant with Caris Navigating. The negotiating parties are the City of Port Hueneme and Habitat for Humanity, and under negotiation is potential price and terms of payment. That concludes it.
Thank you very much. The time is now 5:32. We are in closed session.
It took her about, a few weeks to get it going. And then she said, oh, no big deal. And the other thing, again, is I was actually planning to make the last video was in Las Vegas. And the next morning I said, oh, I'll check it out on YouTube. It wasn't on YouTube. Yeah. Yeah, I found it. I did find it. I found it through the city's website. I get it. That makes sense. But normally that would be on YouTube as well. Yeah. Anyway, my name's Jeff. I just nice to meet you. So how come our last day she didn't say she was never going to be here. All right. Thank you.
I love your dress.
Oh, thank you. You'll see I'm a polka dot fan.
It looks good on you. It's really a cute dress. They're all for item number 8, sir.
I'm waiting. God, I love little girls in ponytails. Isn't that cute?
That was given to each council member. She wanted to eat one. I guess she's gonna come and sign it on behalf of the children. Look here.
The red nose significance. I saw a bunch of red noses at sale at where Rite Aid.
Really?
Is that part of a campaign?
I don't know. Do you know anything about the red nose?
I would, because I have grandkids like that age.
I'd like to reconvene this meeting. We'll start with the flag salute. If our Mayor Pro Tem could please lead us in the salute.
Please place your hand to heart. Again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, it's time for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Gama,
Here.
Munoz Schnapp,
Here.
Rollins,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hernandez.
Here.
And Mayor Berg.
Here. And our inspiration with Councilmember Rollins.
A well-known economist stated, "A budget is telling your money where to go and not to worry where it went." This past city council meeting, we made decisions that will affect each resident of the city in a big way by approving a 2-year budget on time. In the past few years, the city staff and council have had to scrimp and save to keep the city afloat. Today and then for the next few years, we will have funding sources which will allow us to improve the community. But with this new revenue comes a great responsibility to spend your money wisely. A budget is a well-thought-out plan. City staff has worked hard to develop this plan and develop your needs, priorities, and improve your quality of life for the future. But a budget is a living document. Your city council is committed to continually review this plan and make necessary changes. I recommend to all residents to take time in their lives to establish their own individual financial plan. The better off that you are is the better off we all are. Finally, I finish off with a quote from a former governor of New York. A good budget reflects a choice, not always an easy choice, but the right choice. And when you think of it, the only choice.
Thank you very much. Okay, can I get a motion for approval of our agenda?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, so, report on closed session action, Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Mayor and Council, there are no reportable actions from tonight's closed session items.
Very good. Next, we do have a couple of presentations. One of them is recognizing Captain Douglas King. Captain King is the Chief of Staff, Naval Base Ventura County. He's been there, 2015. So he's been there quite some time now, 4 years. He's retiring. There is going to be a ceremony at the CB Museum the day after tomorrow, which is Wednesday morning. And we do have a proclamation recognizing Doug. He's going to stay in the neighborhood. I believe lives in Newberry Park. It's going to be great to have him there. I will not burden you guys with reading all of this. It's a lot of stuff. So I'm going to pass this on to our Mayor Pro Tem, who will be attending that retirement celebration. And we hope to recognize him again someday. We know he's going to be in the neighborhood. Next, we have the Ventura County Fire Chief, Chief Monday, an introduction.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of the council. Mayor Pro Tem Hernandez reminded me a few meetings ago that we had not formally introduced our new Ventura County Fire Chief for Port Hueneme. I've met him a few times, but we've never formally introduced him to the council and community. So we asked Chief Monday to come up, tell us a little bit about his background with the department and what some of his goals are now that he's officially our Port Hueneme Chief.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and staff, and Mr. Butler. Gary Monday. I've been with the Ventura County Fire Department for 30 years. Started my fire service career here in the county as a reserve firefighter when I was 18 years old. So this is my 35th year kind of working for the county of Ventura. Went through the ranks as a firefighter, an engineer, and then a fire captain. I was promoted to battalion chief 7 years ago, where I spent a variety of time over in East County and Simi Valley. And then I've been in our Battalion 5, which is the Santa Clara Valley, serving in Port Hueneme for 2 years. And then my last assignment prior to my promotion to division chief was I spent 5 years running our wildland fire and aviation division, and recently promoted back in March to this position. So in this position, as a division chief, I have West County operations, which includes Port Hueneme, South Coast, Santa Clara Valley, Santa Paula, and also the city of Ojai. So it's a pretty exciting job, little different roles and responsibilities for me. So my real roles for the city is to be sure that you guys are getting what you need as far as services go, keeping you informed on any activity, any emergencies that you need to know about, to be sure that you guys are first to know what's going on within your city, along with the police department, and just being here to help you with any sort of fire-related issues or problems or concerns. And so I'm really looking forward to being here.
Chief Monday, welcome.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
for
me.
your presence here. Anybody have anything they want to add?
Welcome
Questions?
aboard.
Welcome aboard. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have our general public comment time. We have a few comment cards. I've made it a habit to not run our 3-minute clock. Try not to abuse it, please. Get to the point. If you start repeating yourself, or if you get real boring, I'm going to turn that clock on real quick. But please, just take the time you need to say what you need to say. And we'll start with Carrie Kehoe.
Hello, my name is Carrie. This is my daughter Juliana, and I am your current title holder as Ms. California, but although I'm not here on my title. And this is my daughter, and she is Miss Petite Kern County. We just moved here from Kern County. We've been here for 2 weeks. My personal background, as far as health is concerned in relation to the cannabis industry, is that I have lupus, so I'm very aware of the industry and what it does for people who have different medical disorders or things that are not curable, such as cancer, etc. And I'm all for that. But when it comes to having a cannabis function in the open public of our community where my daughter will be openly exposed. That's something I'm strongly against, and I would like you to consider that. Also, we have our little restaurant across the way that's in the same parking lot, and they do serve alcohol. And so I know that's also a concern of mine as well. So I just hope that you consider the families in the area and the children.
Thank you very much. Michelle Kehoe.
Sir, these are all regarding the public hearing for item number 8. Do you want to wait till we open the public hearing?
Oh,
to take
I'm
those
sorry.
public comments?
Yes, I should have caught that. Thank you very
Thank
much. All of them? Let me
Sorry.
look.
I promise you'll get your turn.
Yeah.
Ms. Becky.
Mayor,
Carrie, you might even get to go again.
Mayor,
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
is there, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time, is there a chance that because we have so many people to discuss this subject that we somehow move that up a little bit further in the agenda?
It is going to be coming real fast. It's right after the consent agenda.
Okay.
It's the first thing up. So, we now have our consent agenda.
I move approval.
Got one approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
And approval and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, consent agenda has been approved. Now it's time for the public hearings. The time is now 6:38. Do any members of the council have any conflicts to disclose? And Madam Clerk, do you have proof of publication as required by law for this?
Yes, sir.
And do we have a complete file of reports and exhibits?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Staff, Tony, you're up.
Maybe if we could dim the lights possibly. Sure. At least let this thing get a little bit brighter. Anyway, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council.
Okay.
All right. This is a public hearing for special use permit number 08-19, which is the Darvita cannabis event. I want to start off by making a note here that this is actually a request to basically relocate a previously approved event. The previously approved event was to be at the Ocean View Pavilion across the street from the beach on July 27th and 28th of this year. However, the applicant has canceled that event and submitted this new application, and therefore this event in effect will still be the first cannabis-oriented special event in the city, if approved. Similar to the previous request, the applicant is requesting to hold what he calls a farmer's market. It would be this time August 10th, 2019 and August 11th, 2019. He's still expecting up to about 1,500 attendees per day. There'd be booths for various vendors, both cannabis and related non-cannabis users. There will be a DJ, but no live entertainment this time. There would still be food trucks. And there's still the potential that if this event is successful, that there could be future events. But again, this being the first event, this is kind of our guinea pig if it is approved. The applicant holds one of the few state-issued permanent cannabis event licenses. So this is not just somebody coming in off the street wanting to hold such an event. And as a licensee, this event is conducted in a manner similar to our permanent dispensaries, where it limits age, the amount of product sold, paperwork being kept, track and trace of the product, etc. All attendees and vendors will be age 21 and older, so there won't be any 18-year-old permit, say medical card holders, for instance. Everybody does have to be at least 21. There will be on-site security throughout. There will be only one way in and one way out, and I'll explain this a little bit more in a couple slides here. And all attendees will be screened by security. So basically what this means is that if somebody comes in, they cannot leave without going back through the full admission process again. And then there was close to 50 conditions of approval based on information provided by the chief of police and the fire department, as well as our standard cannabis type of conditions that we have on our normal CUPs. The applicant is working with the adjacent Surfside Seafood for a tie-in. As you saw, hopefully at the last page of the council packet, the Surfside Seafood owner has approved of the event. Originally, the application was to have no direct access to the restaurant. However, late last week, they decided that they did want direct access. But the problem was, as they found out, they could not sell alcohol at the restaurant because the state does not allow alcohol to be sold with a cannabis event. So this past Sunday, I was informed by the applicant again that he was going back to the original proposal where he will go ahead and promote the restaurant, but there will be no direct access, and therefore the restaurant can continue to have its normal sale of food and beverage. And so the slide of the site plan in your packet shows the one with direct access, which is this one right here. But the new revised slide doesn't show the direct access anymore. There'll just be a couple vendors there. However, the sidewalk along the south side of parking lot A will be left open for a couple of reasons. One, because we cannot block access to the beach itself, and two, to also make sure that there is still sufficient access to the restaurant itself. So we require this special use permit to come before you for a couple of reasons. One, because the code requires it, because it is at the beach, and second, again, because it is our first cannabis event. We want to make sure that we vet it through the public hearing process. The project is considered exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act because it does use existing facilities and is minor temporary use of the land. For fiscal impact, just as we do with all of our cannabis events, a minimum of 5% of the sales, cannabis businesses' sales will go towards the general fund. Plus, there will be an additional 1% minimum towards local charities. And I did a little bit of a write-up in the staff report where we are expecting several $1,000s in revenues back to the city because of this. There'll be revenues from other vendors and food trucks. Also, unlike the Ocean View Pavilion site, because the applicant is proposing to rent 162 of our spaces for 4 days at $8 a piece, that also adds up to several thousand more dollars in revenue for the city. We also have potential revenues from bed tax, merchant licenses, and sales taxes, especially since this is a 2-day event. And then the applicant will pay for all costs incurred by city staff and resources. So with that, based on the findings in the staff report, including the consistency with the general plan policy that we encourage events down at the beach, which is also a coastal commission recommendation as well, and then based on the fiscal impacts, staff recommends that this special use permit be conditionally approved by the city council. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Let's get the lights back on. Thank you very much. Do we have questions and or comments for staff for Mr. Stewart? Sylvia, please.
So, thank you, Mr. Stewart, for clarifying, because I think most of the information I saw on social networks over the weekend was that, that maybe we had already approved this, and, what could we do now? And it really is just a change in the venue, right?
Correct, right. The overall plan, what we've already vetted through the process with Ocean View Pavilion, is the same. It's just obviously with a different layout, being at the beach and whatnot. There will still be on-site consumption, but one thing I didn't point out that is in the conditions of approval is that consumption still needs to occur in a fully enclosed canopy with filtration so that none of the odors can escape. Otherwise, it's still the same basic plan with the vendors, the DJ, and food trucks, etc.
And I know the gentleman who owns Star Vita is here, and last time you shared with us that he's one of just a handful of other vendors that has this special kind of permit and the experience and background that he has as a professional.
That
right?
is correct.
Yeah.
He is currently head of security for our from the Earth Dispensary, as well as our upcoming Tradecraft micro business. And yes, Mr. Perez is here to answer any questions that you have as well, and to respond to any hearing items.
Could we have him come up? Because I think I'd just like, because I see new faces in here that weren't around last time when we took a look at this, so just wanted to verify some of the things you shared, so thank you. So, Mr. Perez, you had mentioned that you have a background in law enforcement?
Yes, retired almost 21 years with Los Angeles Police Department, the second largest city in the nation.
Yeah. And so you are one of several vendors that has this special permit. Tell us a little bit about, like, a summary of what that permit allows you to do.
What the permit allows is to have an up to 4-day event anywhere in the state of California. And the event holder, such as myself, I cannot have any association as far as an owner of cannabis, retail or manufacturer. And what the license allows is on-site at the event sampling and consumption and sales.
Which is very different from, say, some of our retail environments, right? Because they can't have on-site consumption. They can have sale, but not on-site consumption, right?
Correct. Currently, we do not allow that for
Right.
our ordinances.
Okay. Anything else you want to share?
Yes, I know might be some concern about the odor. I attended the third event in the state, in the city of San Bernardino by High Times. The first was in up north somewhere, I don't remember where. The second one was in Victorville. If approved, this will be the fourth event in the state. But also to consideration, the city of Oakland, they've started this year having the Cannabis Farmers Market every third Saturday of the month. And again, this is just a farmers market. It is not a festival, a concert. There is no stage. There is no live entertainment. It's only a DJ. And as far as for the DJ, what I've already confirmed with him, he could place the speakers at certain areas within the event so that he doesn't have to be talking loud or screaming into the mic, or the music have to be playing loud. Also, to the event will be tarped. I actually brought a picture from the High Times event. If I could approach and maybe. The whole event has to be tarped so that no one can see from outside in the public. Also, too, at the same event, I took pictures. I also had several meetings with the chief. Another way to prevent the odor is there will not, all the vendors will sign an agreement. There will not be any sales of flower, like the hand-rolled cigarettes. Only to be allowed will be through water pipes or vape pens. That's odorless. I also brought photos from the High Times event where you can see people actually taking samples from the water pipes and the vape pens. And you can see there's no smoke above.
Okay, thank you. That's
Mayor
all for
Pro
me.
Tem?
Thank you.
One other thing too, I'm sorry about, if the concern, I've also talked to Lyft and Uber, and on the site plan where the entrance is exits is at, we still haven't confirmed, but I'm pretty sure they'll agree to it, is that we're going to have those actual cars parked there for the event. Uber and both Lyft have said that we could post that they will give discounts if they go to the event and come back using Uber or Lyft. So they get $25 credit if they use it during the event. And we'll be posting that on our website and also to any marketing material to encourage people to get there and leave through Uber or Lyft.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Perez, for being here tonight to answer our questions. I'm looking at the sketch of the proposed layout of the event, and I'm wondering, do we have an increase in the number of attendees or number of participants, vendors,
Oh, yes, we do. We have an increase in,
versus what you had proposed when you were going to be in the pavilion?
correct. And one other thing too, I just want to mention about the vendors so that the public's also aware of it. They're not all cannabis vendors. Some are CBD, some accountants, some attorneys, people in the industry.
Okay.
And also we're also trying to get local businesses involved. We're also trying to make a network opportunity. There will also be some of the vendors will be hiring, accepting applications, somewhat of a job fair. So it's not like everyone there is going to be
Sure,
cannabis.
okay. So by how many, what's the number that you went from in the pavilion versus what you want to do out in the parking lot?
Actually, it's less. In the
Oh, it is
pavilion-
less?
Yes, actually, in the pavilion, I think we ended up with, I believe, 70.
Oh, okay. And how many of those are the enclosed tents with the,
On the site.
the odor
diagram,
control?
There's two general, what we're calling general public enclosed canopies, kind of in the center, those, and then there's on the yes, the lounge, and then on the bottom we have the VIP lounges. That would be people that they have to pay for the lounge, but that would be like private parties.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned earlier that you had visited some other farmers
Yes.
markets in other cities, San Bernardino?
Yes.
Was it San Francisco?
Oakland.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Victorville and somewhere up north.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I'm more concerned about what you observed there in terms of any issues or problems that the community had, or any public safety issues that you may have observed, or any things, lessons learned from those events that you can share with us?
Well, what I was looking for was see how they were handling, because each sale of cannabis only has to go through the state's approved track and trace system. So I was watching to see how they did those sales. I noticed too, all the spaces, they had posted their state and city permits and licenses for the event. Also too, in the pictures, if you look at the pictures, if you look at the background, you don't see people walking around smoking, even smoking. That kind of surprised me. I was expecting to see everyone walking around smoking. I did not see that. Again, if you look at the background, I did not detect any odor of cannabis or marijuana. The only odor I detected was from the food stands. And again, everyone was using the vape pens and the bongs. And again, I already made an agreement with the chief that if the vendors do sell flower, that it will not be consumed on site. All the vendors that do sell cannabis will have to sign an agreement that no consumption of flower on the site, only through the water bongs and the vape pens.
And what's the security plan? How are you staffing your security? Is that coming from RPD, or are you hiring private security?
Oh, no, well, since I retired, I have my own security guard company now.
Okay, so it's your
So it'll
security.
be my security guard, but again, I met with Chief Salinas, and we kind of went over things. We will have one of their radios, they'll have one of our radios. He's also going to assign one or two people to work with us. And then also too, I had asked, and I think it's still okay with them, that we actually run a drill before the actual event with the individuals working security and whoever he's going to have working that day in the area. So we're actually going to run a couple of scenarios, what if, so that if something does take place, everyone knows where everything is at.
Yeah, that's great that you're doing that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilmember Gama?
Why the main parking lot? I have a major problem with the selection of the main parking lot because it's going to be very disruptive to the fishermen. It's also going to be disruptive to people that are just coming down to have their weekend lunch at Surfside Seafood. And I don't think the main parking lot has ever been used other than the food truck event. So did you make a consideration to the I don't know what parking lot is, but where historically we had the Hueneme Beach Festival?
I'm not sure which parking lot that was.
To the left of the pier?
Would that be parking lot B, possibly, the one in
Yes.
the middle?
To the east.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is definitely a question, mostly for the applicant here, why he chose B versus, or A versus B. One of the things, though, is with regard to our requirements from the Coastal Commission is we do try to keep the events as far west as possible, preferably west of the pier. So technically, per the Coastal
Not
Act,
true.
this is actually the best thing to do.
We just did a car show in parking lot B.
I'm not saying that we can't use parking lot B, but they do, the Coastal
What, you
Commission-
can't or you can?
I said that you can use it, but it's preferred that we try to be as far west as possible. And as far away from, say, parking lot C and the dunes is what they're really trying to protect at that point. But again, perhaps the applicant can talk about parking lot B a little bit more.
Just I can address that. The fencing is going to be only within the parking lot, so all the public sidewalks are still accessible. And the Surfside restaurant, you still have access to their entrance. Actually, I just came from there right now, again, talking with Alex and his father about how the fence is going to be placed, because they were concerned was that they still want their restaurant to be visible to people as they pull in the parking lot.
I just think it's a bad idea. I'll just leave it at that. I like the other parking lot because, anyways.
Councilmember Rollins?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. I saw on one of those slides that the people were vaping kind of out in the, there was a booth and they were out in the clear. They weren't in any kind of enclosed area.
Right.
And be it, I may be naive, vaping allows no smell whatsoever, or does it allow a smell?
No, there's no odor. It's just
No odor at all.
water boiling and smoke.
And the smoke doesn't have any
No,
odor?
I mean, not even smoke. It's just smoke from the vape pens.
Okay.
If I may, with this event, we're not going to be allowed any kind of outdoor smoking, whether it be vaping or smoking at all. It'll have to be within one of the enclosed tent areas.
Okay. And then in the past facility that you were going to use, the lounge area, at least my impression, that was in an enclosed, it wasn't a tent, it was in an enclosed room?
The whole event was taking place within the building, yes.
So it's going to be inside?
Right.
And what were you going to be using there to keep the fumes from going outside?
The building owner said he had some great ventilation, so he said.
So the new one, these lounges here, they're going to be in kind of like tents?
Yes.
Canvas tents and stuff like that. How do you keep the stuff from going out of a tent? I mean, that's probably, at least my understanding was that would be a whole lot less airtight than a building would be.
They're going to be 20 by 20, and they will be, what we're going to install is air filtration inside the canopies themselves. And then we'll also, too, we'll have air conditioning because it may get a little warm. But again, the only consumption on site is going to be through the water pipes or through the vape pens. It's going to be odorless.
And so those water pipes and vape pens would be inside this kind of semi-enclosed area?
Yes, but on the plan, I think there was a misunderstanding because we were going to allow sampling of the different strains, and that was to be at the cannabis spaces, and they were going to be using just the water pipes and the vape pens outside of the lounge. But that's just sampling. But if they actually wanted to consume it and smoke, then they had to go inside one of the public lounges or the VIP lounge.
You guys, what kind of music is the DJ going to be playing? I mean, what type of music can the rest of the community hope to hear?
Probably like some adult alternative, like Imagine Dragons, maybe some old rock.
Okay.
No hip hop or gangster rap.
Mr. Stewart, would if they had requested the parking lot to the east, would that have been a deal breaker?
No, it wouldn't have. Again, we would have just had to probably add additional conditions, basically keeping everybody really contained within that parking lot. But otherwise, it's not a deal breaker because we have allowed uses in there before.
Yeah, I'm looking at this diagram now. Same one up there. I'm still unsure about where customers for the restaurant would be able to park.
They would be parking over in the loop area to the basically between this event area and parking lot B. We still have that portion of the parking lot that comes in and kind of loop around there. That directly fronts the pier itself and where we have our the brick area at this point. So that would be that area, and then again, parking lot B, of course, would be open as well.
And the owner was okay with that?
Correct. Right. Again, he submitted actually something in writing to us, which I've attached to the end of your packet there, because again, we did want to make sure that he was part of this process and that he was comfortable with this layout.
Mr. Mayor, if I may comment, where the line ends, that's another parking space, and I think that accommodates up to 60, 80 80 vehicles.
Where the line ends, you're talking going further west?
Correct. And it runs adjacent to the restaurant.
Oh, adjacent to the restaurant?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Perez, how many attendees do you expect will attend this event?
I don't know, 1,500, I hope.
Are we going to have enough parking for,
Is that per day or?
Per day.
per day? Okay. Are we going to have enough parking for 1,500 attendees?
I think
Since
with parking B and C, I was going to ask, if approved, if to rent the Public Works that's going through ESCO right now, that facility, because that's not too far walking. I spoke to the individual, Michael, I forget his last name, is Allen. I'm writing a security plan, we'll be providing him security also. He's already said he has no problem with it. I did ask, would you be willing to write? He said he'll write a letter if that's necessary. And that's just if we have overflow, then we would direct everyone over there.
So would the number of vending booths, if we were to say you can't hold it there, hold it in parking lot B, would you be able
I have no
to
problem with that. Actually, I would.
conform your?
I actually like that one better because it's more out of like the public kind of up, I have no problem with that.
Yes.
I have a couple more questions. It looks like Saturday's event is going to go till 10 p.m.
Yes, but the cannabis sales end at 9 p.m.
So what's going to, oh, cannabis ends at 9.
Yes.
So you're just trying to clear the area and all for that
Like
other
last
hour?
call.
Last
9
call,
p.m.
I see. And the lights are going to be okay for that out there, Tony? Like late at night? I know the sun's setting later, but we're still probably going to be dark.
They should be sufficient. They may have to add some lighting, but Chief and I have had that discussion as well as with the applicant to verify that.
And
Okay.
that's on Saturday, it ends at 9, and Sunday it's going to be, last call will be at 6 p.m.
Okay, so I know this area kind of takes place of what the beach festival, the main areas were used for the beach festival back in the day. Back in the day that we had this. No, it was right here.
This is a seafood, Surfside Seafood.
I know it is.
That was all parking.
No, we had over 20,000 people at this. That's the Hueneme Beach Festival years ago. We gave it up years ago, but it actually went all the way down to, I think, parking lot C was some of the vendors would park their RVs, and then B would be something else. We had even carnival rides extended over this way, and then it would pop into this area.
But this was always used for parking.
I beg to differ with you on that, Gamma, because I was here on the council. But anyway, so it's very similar. It was very similar, maybe in concept it was very similar, and maybe there's some sections here and there. But those events used to draw a ton more people than 1,500. And so certainly, I think if it's staged right, it could possibly work. But I know one of the concerns I had last time was that if it's successful, we expect Mr. Perez to be back here again. And so I'd really like for this body to consider an additional part to our cannabis ordinance that takes shape with some special events that could possibly happen within the city. So we're not dealing with this every single time, but it's built in within the rules and regulations of all of it in terms of cannabis. One last thing here is that we were in our packet, we had the retailer temporary licenses and all, and so some of them would expire before this date. And maybe they just don't apply anymore, and maybe, you know what I mean? So some of those had those expirations that were earlier.
They will all have to be fully licensed, both with the state if they're cannabis, as well as have business licenses.
And
here in the city.
so you'll review all of that to make sure that all of those are legitimate with their licenses. Yeah, updated. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Gama?
Tony, you pulled the site plan for the last Hueneme Beach Festival. Do you remember pulling that for me?
It's been quite a while.
It was a couple weeks ago, but just want to get on the record that the site plan was parking lot B, and this area was always used for parking. I mean, that's just facts. So my concern is that we've never had a large-scale event in the main parking lot like this.
Well, if it's, based on what the council, at least some of the council members have mentioned this evening, and what Mr. Perez has also mentioned, perhaps we could condition this that it be relocated to parking lot B with the same security, basically the one main entrance in and out, the same tarping, the same tent areas and whatnot, and then move forward with that.
Right, because parking lot B was completely fenced off, and they had one entry point, and everything was contained within there, and the main parking lot continued to be for parking. So again, my concern is that you're going to disrupt the fishermen, the people that come to the seafood, and they're going to have to park elsewhere. It just seems to me that it'd be better placed at the other site.
Councilmember Rollins?
In this new venue, was there any kind of outreach that was done to the community around to let them know that this might be going on, or when it would be going on, or anything like that? I know I knew of the old event, and I knew of the new event, obviously, because I got the council agenda a few days ago, but then the general public, were they let to be aware of it, this at all?
This is a public hearing, so yes, we publish this, an ad in the local paper, and we also notify all property owners within a 300-foot radius. However, we also notify the two closest HOA management companies as well, so that if folks lived outside of that 300-foot radius within those HOAs, they would still be able to disseminate the information to all of their property owners.
Okay.
Yeah. How big is your security? How many bodies do you have?
I currently provide security from San Diego up to this great city. I have 180 guards.
Are you going to have 180 there?
Oh, no, sir.
So, I don't want to know about your business. I want to know about this event.
Oh, for that event?
How many security people
I
do
think
you
it
have
had anywhere
there?
from 25 to 30.
25 to 30?
Yes.
Plus another 3 or 4 officers? 2 officers. Okay. Are there any other questions?
I wanted to address Council Snops on
Please.
the licensing part. As the event holder, I have to notify the state 10 days before of everyone that's participating in the event. And I have to provide all the retailers' licenses, state licenses and city licenses. Also to all the product that comes to the event has to be delivered by a state licensed distributor. I have to have their license. All the product that comes from either cultivator or manufacturer, I have to have their licenses. Everything has to go to a testing lab that's approved by the state, and I have to have the state licenses. And prior to attending the event, I have to provide the state with all the information, all the licensed cultivators, manufacturers, testing labs, and distributors, and the retailers that be involved in this event. That's the cannabis, though, not no other like I said, there's supposed to be an architect who wants to attend and other people. But everyone has to be licensed by the state to participate.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps a little more difficult is to put your finger on the definition of success, because you mentioned that in your PowerPoint. Depending on the level of success, we would hope to have more of these. I also understand that from the very beginning, when we started talking about an ordinance for cannabis sales in the city 2-3 years ago now, we also had to weigh the pros and the cons both ways. Our cannabis business here is so far proven to be very successful. And it's easy to support a yes vote on what we've done the last 2 or 3 years. This changes the formula just a little bit, and that is consumption on site. And we've got people that are going to be consuming, and we have no idea how long they'll be in the tent. And then they're going to jump in their car and drive home. Yep. And define success for this event. that would encourage us to do more of these events?
We still have to abide by the daily limits, and you are correct. There is a possibility they'll jump in their car. But also, sir, I would like to let you know that there is a Boots and Beer Country Music Festival, 21 over. If you show your ID, you could consume alcohol. There's also going to be a tequila and taco event. Same thing. They will be serving tequila and alcohol if you prove you're 21 over. There's going to be an Oxnard, a festival, jazz festival, again, alcohol event. And the Center for Disease Control says every 51 seconds someone dies of alcohol-related offense. And as we leave this evening, we'll be passing several restaurants, several bars that also serve alcohol. I was like I said, I've been almost on the police department 21 years. When I first got on the police department, I worked as patrol. I arrested numerous people for under the influence of alcohol, PCP, cocaine, heroin, never for cannabis. Then I worked homicide, I worked robberies, I worked burglaries, I worked child abuse. The majority of those events, people were under the influence, again, alcohol, cocaine, heroin, PCP, never cannabis. Now, I did arrest people for selling cannabis, but under the influence of cannabis, no. So I understand the public's concern. It's not like this is going to be some crazy festival where people are going to smoke marijuana and they're going to be loose in your city and they're going to be doing all these evil things. I think more of a threat is alcohol. That's why I don't drink alcohol, because I don't like the statistics. I've arrested people for it. I see what happens when you drink and drive. But also at the same time, I don't use cannabis either.
Councilmember Rollins?
At the last meeting that we had, I think I asked Mr. Salinas, and they were and he had told me that while if you drink, there's testing available to tell whether you're under the influence. You'd know that too, I would assume. But there's no way to really test if somebody is under the influence of cannabis, at least in the short term. Am I correct or not?
No, sir. There is testing for cannabis now. That patrol officers use them.
So if they pull somebody over, how do they even determine whether somebody?
They use breath analyzers, and since I retired from the department, I'm not no longer, but I'm sure the chief could address that.
Okay, maybe.
Councilmember Schnapp?
Yeah, I do have a clarification. We have held an event on Parking Lot A, but it wasn't the Hueneme Beach Festival. It was when we reopened the pier, and it was a great blowout Saturday event and music and everything, and it was in Parking Lot A. So just want to clarify that for the record. Thank you. I know you were.
Any other questions?
So I guess to clarify, is there a test? Or is there not a test?
It's not a test. I think what you're testing for is impaired driving.
Right.
And you can spot an impaired driver. And they don't have to have any alcohol on their breath or in their system to be taken down for reckless driving as an impaired driver.
But my wife always says that my driving is impaired. So.
That's your problem.
Councilmember Gum.
So I spent a lot of time on the beach, and there's a lot of cigarette butts out there, and more recently, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say that, but there is a lot of evidence of consumption of cannabis in and along the beach, as well as alcohol. So I just want to emphasize that it's happening out there, a pretty large-scale event. This weekend we had a beach cleanup, and we picked up thousands of cigarette butts. I mean, it's just incredible the amount of cigarette butts. So, I know walking down the beach, you could smell consumption when it's being on. So there appears to be a misinformation that it's okay to consume marijuana in the open public now. I don't know if that's because of our recreational dispensaries, but I know one such individual that will go up and confront people on the beach and say, hey, you can't do that here. So what is clearly, I don't think it's legal to get a 40 and drink it out in the public, right? So do we have an ordinance that says you can't consume cannabis in public areas?
Well, we have a no smoking ordinance. Something that we are going to be looking at and working with Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Hernandez on actually upgrading that and updating that to make it a little bit stricter. But we don't allow smoking at our public parks and whatnot either. This would be one of our public parks.
Yeah. And again, I can tell you thousands of cigarette butts. I mean, in the parking lot, in the park. I mean, it's you know,
Yeah,
there's.
it would seem that the beach could almost be an attractive nuisance for people who leave the tents, leave the festival, and let's stroll the beach for a little while with what we've purchased.
And yeah, and my point is they're doing that already, and as well with cigarettes. I mean, you know, so.
We have taken we place some measures that hopefully prevent that. We are using the handouts that the Fine City PD has developed. Are going to make those in stands or I don't know how to explain it. But we'll be informing the public of that, or the attendees of that. Also, too, the DJ will be making announcements. We also the security will be patrolling the beach area, the sand area.
That's what I
Make sure
wanted you to
people are
say.
not doing
That's
that.
what I was waiting for you to say. Will you be patrolling
Yes, sir.
the beach?
Right. Like I said, my whole intention is that I want to be able to come back and do this again. So to me, it is important that we do not have any mishaps, violations, or lawbreakers. So, it's already happening. But for our event, our event, we're going to try to do our best to prevent that. Patrolling the parking lots also, and then we're also patrolling some of the local streets close to the event. Also to watch, make sure they're not littering, urinating, or doing anything, again, to cause the local residents to be upset.
So you may need a little more security than your initial number.
Yes,
You
sir.
need to add 2 to 4 people on the beach.
Okay.
All
no,
the time.
absolutely.
All the time on the beach. Now you're talking about patrolling some of the streets too?
Yes.
Okay, good. Councilmember.
So,
Collins.
normal procedure, one of your security guards sees somebody maybe 200 yards away from the event smoking something that maybe they did or they didn't purchase at the event. What is the procedure besides telling them you shouldn't be doing it? They don't probably have any real authority. Is there any kind of a way that they directly contact the police to deal with it, or how does this work?
Well, our guards will be working in twos. I want us to work in twos. And then as I was the one to approach you, my partner standing here, I'm going to tell you, you're on camera and we're recording this. And I'm going to tell you that what you're doing is not legal, and you need to stop doing that. And then we're going to escort you off. But at the same time, we're going to be recording you. And I want to tell you he's recording you because I want you to know you're on camera. Anything you tell me offensive, you try to insult me or attack me or anything, you're on camera. Any negative problem. And then what I tell him is this video is going to be handed over to the police department. At the same time, we're going to have radio communications. So the individual 2 guards on the sand may not have the one radio for the Port Wayne PD, but they will have the radios throughout all the security guards. So you can say, I have an incident over here on the beach, on the sand. I'm on the southeast side of the sand. And maybe if he's uncooperative, of course, we're going to try to handle the situation without having to call the police. But if he's not being cooperative, then we have no other choice.
Councilmember Schnapp?
Yes, so tell me a little bit about how you're going to sell entrance tickets. Are they in advance? Are they in person? Is it up to a certain time?
Their
Et cetera.
advance is $25, and you get them online. And if not, you get it at the booth for $30. And of course, if any of the residents here, there will be no charge. They get enter free, which I would suggest because I think it's educational. Like I said, it's not a crazy smoke fest like Chi Chi Chong or something like that. No, it's cannabis with different strains. They want to show that the health benefits that the different strains provide. And again, it's not just all about the cannabis. There's going to be hemp products. There's, like I said, architects hiring. We're going to be hiring we're gonna have a booth ourselves, hiring guards, because we have, I'm working on 3 more security plans for 3 other, if Tony approves them, coming over here. So we're looking for more guards also.
So what would happen if you hit the 15? Is 1,500 a maximum, or is that an expectation?
That's, we're gonna put a maximum online, so if we do hit 1,500, then there's no more sales. So the only way that they could participate or attend would they have to come to the door, to the, I guess, the booth or to the event.
So
I'm
what's-
sorry, I didn't quite hear your answer.
1,500 will be it online. So like if we get 1,500 ticket purchases on Saturday, there'll be no, it will say sold out. So the only other way they could attend the event is if they were to come to the event itself and purchase a ticket at the gate or the booth.
And so you had originally said too in the other date and the other venue, is that people could only purchase, that you would have a record of what they purchased, because in reality they can only purchase up to a certain amount every day in reality. And so would you have that kind of coding going on at this festival so that you could be aware of when somebody has hit the limit?
Yes, because again, it's going through the California Track and Trace, and you have to show your ID when you make a purchase. And for concentrate, you can only purchase up to 8 grams, and for flour, it's 28.5. So once they reach that limit, they can't purchase anymore. Very similar, like I have allergies, so when I go buy Allegra, they say, oh, you know what, you can't buy right now because you bought within 30 days. You have to come wait till afterwards. That's how I believe the state originally set up that track and trace system, very similar to that, so that people cannot go over their daily limits.
And so then going back to the ticket sales, if you max out at 1,500 online, what is the maximum of the people there on site each day?
If we have 1,500, I don't think 1,500, well, you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe 1,000 people, 1,500 people, but I don't think everyone's going to stay all at the same time. So we are going to keep count as people go in, so that if people do show up, if we do set the max at 1,500, we're still going to have someone counting how many attendees are entering, and then also how many are leaving. So that way, if someone comes up to purchase a ticket, we'll say, okay, yeah, we let 10 more go in because 10 already left. I don't know if we can reach that. I hope we do, though, but I don't know if that will happen.
Did we talk about, Mr. Stewart, like a maximum number of people that could possibly be at this event?
No, we didn't with either the last one or this one. Again, the idea was that hopefully he would get up to the 1,500, but it was estimated to be between 1,000 and 1,500 per day.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's going to be more.
I think I can answer that. I think you have the answer from the previous festival.
I feel like it's going to be more.
For
But,
the
you
previous
know,
festival that you said it was there, you said I think you said 20,000?
oh, that was the beach festival. That was free. That was a free event
Oh.
for a
Little different
regional. It was pretty big, and it had live bands and things like that. So
But I
it was
mean,
very different.
as far as occupancy, that's what I was thinking.
It's
of.
very, yeah, it was very different, though. Yeah.
So what if, well, let me a little background. So if you go to a liquor store right now and purchase any type of liquor, you can't sample it, you can't open it, you can't consume it on site. Would it be a deal breaker if you had no consumption?
Yes,
It would be.
yes.
So is that the main purpose, to come and consume at Wainimi Beach for this festival? I don't,
Yes, because then why would I go to that festival? I could just go to a retail shop.
well, they can't consume at a retail shop.
Right.
But I just trying to gauge like how much consumption is going to be going on here. Is it,
Oh, I don't know how much consumption.
Is there any way to get around it? I mean, if you've got 4 or say 10 booths, and somebody goes to sample at each booth, that's okay.
Yes, well, we did, we came up, we have wristbands. We have different colored wristbands. We have a certain color wristband for attendees. We have another wristband for the vendors. Then we have another wristband for the staff, or like the management. So you can get a sample, and it's be adapted to the water pipe, or again through the vape pen, very similar to the pictures I showed you, and you're allowed to get 10. So what
And-
10 samples, which is a dab.
Are you,
And we punch the wristband.
They're
So
controlled.
once they get 10, they cannot get any more samples.
Next.
But honestly, from the event that I attended to at High Times, I was really surprised because they had no system like that as far as how much. They were just making the sales, but they were keeping track how much everyone was selling. But yet, I didn't see like the same people going to the same booths to get another sample. And some of the sampling was they were charging like 10 cents. Again, it's just a dab. I'm not real familiar about cannabis, but so I was watching and they had like this little device, and they just scrape the concentrate, and then they just put it in the water pipe. So it wasn't even like it was like a little scratch. It wasn't like, they poured a bunch into the pipe or something like that.
Any other questions?
I do have one more question, and this is on the contract, and maybe a question for Tony. Is really $1 million in commercial general liability enough for an event like this?
That's our general standard that we have. We haven't set any additional ones. It's probably best answered, I would say, by the city manager, but this is what we've required of all of our other attendees at the beach because they're using our property.
Also, too, that's a state requirement also. The state also requires proof that we have the...
At least that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions? Very good then.
You have speaker cards.
We have speakers.
Thank
What
you.
you're going to get to. Don't forget.
I appreciate your help.
You're welcome.
At this time, anyone who wishes to address the council on this matter, please come forward. I do have some cards here. Try and keep it to 3 minutes. Carrie, do you want to go again?
I wrote just a couple of notes and then a little bit of background. My spouse is actually, he is an investor in the industry, so I'm very familiar, and I have attended one of these events before. And I did not consume, but I did leave in the back of the paramedics gurney. The paramedics gurney is also necessary, and I didn't hear anything about having that there. So I'd like to know about that. I also would like to know, as far as the term success, who on the council would be attending to measure that success, to actually see it firsthand, to see if, what's going on, because it's really easy to stand up here and say that certain things are going to happen and kind of make it up as you go, and then the day of, things get crazy. I will also say that my partner and I, we are against having these events, even being an invested family in the industry and as a patient, still against having these types of events for that reason. The vape and bongs do leave an odor, by the way. There's no jurisdiction on the beach, as far as I know, legally. I can stand corrected, so if he approaches somebody on the public beach, I'm not sure that that's the case. I can also tell you that the HOA was not notified. I was notified because I live directly across from the beach. So we fell within that amount of footage that 300 feet. However, when we went to the HOA meeting the other day, they were actually announcing that don't worry, it's been canceled, and everybody took a sigh of relief as we stood up and then notified them differently. We also handed out pamphlets at the gate this weekend, and I would say 99% of the people that drove by and took a pamphlet were not aware about this event at all in Surfside 4. We, like you mentioned, Mr. Gama, that we do have an issue on the beach already. Just in the few weeks that I've been living here, I call the sheriff's department or the police department often to report this. We like to sit on our porch in the evening and face the beach, and we smell it all the time, so I'm constantly calling in those. The cars that are going to be parked along the street because the parking's taken up, it seems like a mess. As of 2 days ago, the restaurant owner, he wasn't happy about the event, so I'm not sure what changed. He was, I don't know if I don't know. So something changed along there. I know money talks, unfortunately, but that doesn't, I don't want that to define our little city here that we're trying to build. And then I'm a little nervous about the number of people attending. Like Sylvia said, it's a lot of people come. And the one that I went to, it was out in a field in the middle of nowhere, sort of at like a county fair type of location. As you were leaving to parking, you could still smell, obviously, secondhand smoke is a thing. So that's happening. And then my last point is the sampling does make it a little bit scary. From what I saw when I was there, it's very difficult to say that every single booth rep is not going to pass out a certain amount of samples because they bring friends. And if they purchase their limit, they're going to have their buddy say that this was towards his daily limit. So it's very easy to kind of get out of those realms, if that makes sense. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
I have a little thing written here, but I had so many questions from Mr. Perez's presentation, but I'll try and be very brief. Has anybody watched Live PD? Okay, we should. And I would do because how it was described today is not accurate. Marijuana impairs you. I think people know that the THC impairs you, and there is no legal way to there's no breathalyzer. Hopefully there will be, but there isn't as of now. I'm sitting there listening to his presentation and then talking about him stopping or his team stopping people on the beach, and this is summertime, the height of summer, and families are going to be with their kids running around, boogie boarding, and I'm just trying to picture that. I feel like I just smoked a joint myself, honestly, listening to the presentation, because I'm trying to picture all that happening in the height of summer with our families, trying to enjoy the beach that's public. And it's very disheartening, honestly. My husband's a retired captain with the Department of Corrections. We have a whole different view on fun marijuana because he's seen a different side of it. This isn't about cannabis. My daughter spoke. She has need for certain parts of it because of the lupus that she fights every day. We're advocates for medical marijuana for that reason, and I've become very educated about it for that reason. The farmers market, to call this a farmers market, I think is almost kind of a joke, because it's a party. I mean, it's a party. I think he confirmed that when Councilman Gamma asked if you took out the smoking part of it, would that be okay? And he's like, oh no. I mean, that would be a deal breaker. It's a party. That makes it the party, the smoking part. So I think calling it a farmer's market is very disingenuous. It's a festival. It's a cannabis or pot or weed festival. That's what it is. And to have it right in front of that, in that parking lot, I think is just really, really a bad idea for a lot of reasons. I read that 57-page presentation. I've read it a couple times. There's quite a few things in there that concern me. The Uber and Lyft discounts, I mean, does that bother you that we're sitting here talking about that at all? That on weekend days where our families are out and about, we're worried about taking people who are impaired home safely. I don't know, the whole thing just sounds crazy to me. And then it said in the presentation that I read that they're going to check them, see if they're impaired, and encourage them to call a friend, call Uber, or go back inside until they get sober. That's what it said in the presentation, the 57-page presentation. I read it like 3 times. That's, again, doesn't that sound a little crazy to you? I think that our police department is going to be very busy because, as far as I know, Mr. Perez's team, who makes money off of this, obviously, this is a moneymaker. I get that. I don't think he has any. Somebody can tell me differently, but I don't think he has any authority to actually take keys from anybody, arrest anybody on the beach. Nor would we want him to. Do we want him to confront people on the beach with our kids swimming around? I don't know. I'm just trying to picture that in my head. It's hard to imagine. The other thing that was said, I mean, this is not Venice Beach. I know that cannabis is our world's changing, and I'm all for that. But this is a step too far. the consumption part in public, to give him a permit to make it legal for 2 days, which is illegal right now, today. The selling of it is legal. We got that. We all swallowed that pill, whether you liked it or not. Smoking in public changes everything. You are giving a permit to break the law for 2 days. And it's right there in front of plain sight. It's right there in front of my granddaughter, my family, everybody else's family. We already have, somebody already mentioned, I think it was you, Councilman Gamma, we walk all the time, my family. We walk to the lighthouse all the time. I'm calling constantly the non-emergency phone number because people do have an impression that it's legal and you can smoke it. And every time I'm walking, I'm telling people, and they're fighting me, I can smoke it out here. No, you cannot. No, you cannot. And this event is not going to do anything to help us with that problem that we already have. It's only going to make that problem worse. So I think that we should worry about planning events and sanctioning events that encourage our residents to come out and be neighbors and be, and not ones that we're sitting here talking about drug testing everybody and making sure that our families can drive on the streets and our kids can cross, Surfside Drive safely, and our kids aren't going to be at the beach with somebody smoking pot next to them. I just think that that's just not what we want to be in Port Hueneme. We retired here 2 years ago. This is planned to be our forever home. And I'm really hoping that we start thinking about how we can, do things, make money. I know this is a moneymaker, I get that, but I'm really hoping that we can work towards finding opportunities, money-making finding opportunities to, that are a little bit different than this. In my career, I was a businesswoman and an executive. When controversial decisions had to be made, I asked myself a couple questions all the time. How does this benefit the company? And how does this affect the employees? And I'm asking you guys to do the same. Ask yourself, how does this better Port Hueneme by approving this? And start not just approving it, but you said it yourself, you want this to be put in the bylaws or whatever for future events. And it said in there too that this would be a template for future events like this. That's pretty scary that your vote today means that much. How does this better Port Hueneme? How does this make the families better? How does this encourage other people from outside to want to purchase here? How does this affect our property values? I own 2 properties here, my husband and I. So answer those questions, and I'm hoping you're going to come back with understanding that this is just a step too far into that world. The smoking is just a step too far.
Thank you. Bruce Weeda? Is that right? Weeda?
Yeah. Whitey, Bruce Whitey.
It's not
Let's
weed.
take it for weed. I'm really impressed with some of the people that are here that are prepared. But case in point is I live in Surfside 4. I have another unit in Surfside 1. I've lived here in Port Hueneme since 2012. I didn't know anything about this at all until one of my neighbors handed me a slip today. So unfortunately, I'm not super prepared with my comments, but it's to the point that as much presence, I'm here full-time, and I work a little bit at the radio station at KVTA. I have a Saturday morning show. I work at an insurance company down here. I haven't heard anything about this at all. So the main thing I want to address, it's a touchy area. I don't want to be moralistic about people's lifestyle or about what people choose to do, but I do think that there's a certain line of activity that are adult activities, that we recognize are adult activities. I think smoking pot is an adult activity. I think we would all agree on it. That's an adult activity. We have a family space. We have children and families out in an area. And I think there's an inherent conflict in there. And we could look at other analogous types of adult activity and say, would we tolerate, for example, an event to celebrate tobacco use and let our kids see that, we should have a right of what we don't have to expose our children to, or it should be up to the parents on that choice. It should not be it's almost a reverse morality that the local government should support exposing children to anything and everything because it's their choice. That almost, it's almost it's taking away the right of a parent. So, I mean, you could look at, I looked at the analogies. We could have a liquor festival and have whiskey and tequila and everything else and let everybody drink and hire Ubers and all that too. And maybe in the right place, there's nothing wrong with it, but we do have inherently a family space. We could have a gun festival, and some people might feel very different about that. I have no problem with maybe my kids at an early age learning to use it, but I don't know about having it in a public place where we have to rub people the wrong way. The thing, that's immoral. We could have adult entertainment festival out here in front of the community and expose our children to that. Don't want to moralize about anything, but I think parents have a right on being able to control a family space in some way that we know we're not pressing up against the negation of that right. So where parents may have a right to what they do want to expose their children to, they should have a right to what they don't want to expose them to. And I think that's the inherent problem of this. I'm not as prepared with everybody else on a lot of other fine points, but that's my main objection to it is in a family space. I think this is an adult activity and belongs in spaces where adult activities should take place, not and confuse that and use a family space to promote that kind of commerce. That's all I got to say.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Thank you very much. Fred Plessner.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak for a few minutes. My name is Fred Plessner. I've owned property out here for nearly 40 years. I've paid taxes every month for 38 years. I don't reside here. I live in Santa Cruz. There's sometimes we come here 3 times a year. I'm semi-retired now as a physical therapist. I worked at Providence St. Joe's in Burbank, spent most of the time in intensive care in neuro units. I was around in the 60s. I've been to Haight-Ashbury, I've been to Berkeley, been to Woodstock. I've been to a number of festivals. I've seen the Grateful Dead, Jimi Hendrix, etc. And as I concur with this gentleman, this is something that I think we need to stand back and steadfast. First, my question I would like before some of my other concerns. What is the point of Port Hueneme to even encourage this event? I assume it's money. Just like one of the assumptions allowing cultivation of cannabis in Port Hueneme was for additional funds because we're apparently limited in hotels, other businesses. So to get some other income sources, we're looking at cultivating cannabis. As Councilman Gama said, I run on the beach, I surf on the beach, I've done a lot of things on the beach back in the 60s. And before I get into things, and I'll try to keep it very short, what is the city of Port Hueneme, the council, what are you expecting to benefit from this event? Why do you want this event? Can somebody?
No, I'm sorry, this isn't a question and answer session. This is for an opportunity for you to talk to us. We'll listen.
Okay. One of my friends is an orthopedic surgeon, just spent the past weekend here. I've had some of my friends that are physicians here. And for the last 3 or 4 years, they don't call it Port Hueneme, they call it Pot Hueneme. And that's what's out in the field, not only in the Oxnard Channel Lines, but in Santa Clarita, Burbank, etc. And my friends that are physicians are from Burbank, Toluca Lake, Sherman Oaks, Studio City, etc. My concern is, as the gentleman just said, we have an adult activity. When this parking lot is all picked up and when we had 20,000 visitors, which we used to go every year, it was for It was for family and adult activities. There was booths, crafts, there was food booths, there was et cetera. It was a family event. We're going to have an adult activity. The people who want to go to the beach with their family, put up a tent, have a barbecue, now have to be concerned what is actually happening. I've been stoned, I've been other things, and do you have control of yourself even when you're stoned? At times, no. What is the liability, $1 million liability? What if somebody drives, walks out, they're impaired, and they're hit by somebody? What is the liability that you're willing to absorb in Port Hueneme? Sir, you suggested that the finances are in a better state. Are those state being able, if a child is hit or an adult is hit and rendered a quadriplegic, paraplegic, which I've worked with many from alcohol abuse, drug abuse, etc. Do we have other type of adult entertainment here? Do we open up vapor shops for the various products? We have not had one expert here from the medical community or any part of hallucinogens to speak about what truly is the effect of cannabis now. It also affects the pulmonary system, it affects a lot of things, and I'm not sure we've taken the proper protective mechanism for the city of Port Hueneme. This is going to be a process that this gentleman has admitted. It's a money maker for him, just like cannabis is. Put in a family community, a beach. It's almost an embarrassment. You're going to bring, my grandkids are going to be here, my kids are going to be here, and it's just outstanding that the small community would allow this to happen. And it's an embarrassment. And I think if this continues, I have to consider about moving out of this, taking my places out of here and go back home where it's safer.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you think you know what side they stand on? Roger Mason.
Well, I want to thank the council. First off, I was very interested in Mr. Perez's comments because I share some of the same experiences. I started my career, Los Angeles Police Department. 29 years later, I retired from Burbank Police Department. Worked all the same details he did. However, I came to some significantly different conclusions as far as the use of marijuana and the effects on people. First thing I want to say about the police department, I have the greatest confidence in our police department. If anybody's a police critic, it's me. We got a good police department. We got a great chief and a good department. I have great confidence in them. However, we're going to have this event. People are going to be intoxicated. When people get intoxicated, there will be problems. If our officers have to take action and arrest somebody, I don't think anybody's really thought about what that means. You know, we talk about money here. Okay, let's say we have a DUI accident. Somebody's intoxicated. Okay, that person's going to jail because you're going to have to get a blood sample from them at the hospital. Somebody's going to have to go do that investigation. That's going to be a lot of overtime for one single incident. But that doesn't end there. Because once that happens, about 2 months later, where those officers going to be? They're going to be spending 3 or 4 days in court, and you're going to be paying for all that overtime. So all the money that you think that you might make from this could, in one incident, one situation, be gone. Another thing I'm very concerned about is if we have an accident, let's say we have a DUI accident involving an intoxicated person, all of our field strength is going to be tied up. Our fire truck's going to be tied up, our paramedics going to be tied up. What happens if something else happens in the city? Can we cover that? Who are we going to call? Where are we going to get help? We're going to bring extra officers in to work those shifts? That would be my suggestion. However, I think Mr. Perez should pick up the cost of that instead of the citizens. And finally, one last thing. He was talking about, well, we're going to manage how much people use. One of the big problems that cities are having is the ones that have legal cannabis distribution businesses are complaining because what does it draw? It draws people that are casual dealers. So you're going to have people out there dealing marijuana around this event. You've already got a cannabis problem in the city. Just like this lady, my wife and I walk along the beach. I don't care so much about the people smoking on the beach. What I care about is I look in all those cars, those people in the cars are smoking and they drive away, and I think about that and I say a prayer because I go, you know, we're relying on their good intentions and their judgment to protect other people. So what I would say to you is that whatever money you think you're going to make, you're going to have these security guards out on our city streets. What if they get involved in an altercation? Who are they going to sue? They're not going to sue that guard company. There's no money there. They'll be coming right after the city. And I'm very concerned about the liability of that guard company. There's no talk about the training they've had. There's no talk about, you know, what they do. You know, are they drug recognition experts? You said, Mr. Perez said something about people will be screened. What does that mean? How do you screen them? You know, so it seems like there's a lot of conjecture and a lot of anecdotal information about what we think is going to happen, but very few facts. So I would ask you to strongly consider, for the safety of our community, that we do not have this event.
Thank you. Jacqueline Monroe.
I have lived in Surfside 4 for 34 years, and I'm sorry to say this is the tackiest thing I've ever heard of. It's uncomfortable. I would not want my grandchildren to be visiting me that weekend, and I hope this does not come through. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald Morrison.
I'm a owner at Surfside 4 and a part-time resident, and I really enjoy coming to beautiful Port Hueneme. Look at this place. This is amazing. We have a beautiful beach and a pier, and it's a wonderful place to bring families to bring their children. Now, this event that's coming up, children are somehow going to be exposed to this because they're going to be in and around this event. There'll be people coming out that are stoned. What effect is this going to have on the children? Also, what concerns me is that this event, you're going to have fallout from this event. Fallout after the event. We have a beautiful beach. This is one of California's best known secrets. And the wrong people are going to find out about this secret. And this is going to change the character of the city. The city will be known for pot sales, even though, oh yeah, it's only going to be a short time this festival. But you know what happens? Afterward, I mentioned about the fallout. There could be fallout during the festival because it's going to attract illegal sellers. They'll be selling in and around the event. How is this going to be regulated? And we talk about this being an income. I think in the long run, it's going to cost us a lot of money because we're going to have to enforce legal marijuana. People smoking on the beach it's going to increase, and we need to put our children first, and we need to keep this area beautiful and peaceful. Thank you.
Thank you. Dulcie Setterfield.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank you for your patience. And I did not know the topic of tonight's meeting until I decided to come and looked at the city website, so I knew about it a few minutes in advance of getting here, and didn't quite understand because I was thinking regular farmers market, like some kind of combined event. But I'm not here to be another naysayer, actually, or to bring up what if. things that are scary or harmful, nor am I someone saying, I'm gung-ho, I'm going to be there. I've never been to an event like that. I'm not planning to go, but I actually think it's worth trying it out. If in your esteemed judgment, everything balances out sufficiently to do that. So if I do bring up a question, it's obviously not for you to answer right here, but maybe just something to think about or a comment. And I do live at Surfside 3. I'll have my 10-year anniversary of living there and 6-year anniversary of owning next month. So first of all, a couple things, and I heard the name Tony over here. I'm just not sure when someone says local paper, are they talking about the Ventura Star or one of the freebie newspapers? But I'm just kind of curious what is considered the local paper. I did not know about the event was originally planned for the indoor pavilion, so obviously I'm not in the loop. I guess our Surfside 3 is maybe outside of that 300-foot limit or something, but if you can see it in your minds and hearts to let not just the 2 closest HOAs know about things, but maybe the 3 closest, we'd like to be notified. We have a really good HOA right now. Everyone on the board lives there, and we have a good newsletter too, but that's only effective if we get word ahead of time on things. There is a deadline. So I'm not sure how the communication flows, but I just wanted to mention those things. I'm curious, the question I have is, are pets going to be welcome at this event? And I'm not here to say that's bad or good, but was any of that thought about? Because I know it's not quite the same as being on the beach. It's an enclosed area, and it may not mean just the dog on the leash. It might mean the parrot on the shoulder, or however those things go at events. So I'm just throwing that out for you. And then the beach event that I was concerned enough to try to more than once called the sheriff about, and also another party with Commissioner Kelly Long and all that, at Mondo's Beach, which is past Ventura, city of Ventura, but it's in the county. There's someone well known within the local surf community who has repeatedly aimed at having alcohol events, not for 1,500 people. We're talking maybe dozens at the most, but with really no safeguards. I mean, I'm impressed someone has thought through a lot of security things, a lot of logistics, organizing how to run an event. I had no idea how much thought and prep with all these, all the prep work that has to be done with the state regs and all for these kind of events. It's like, wow, it takes a lot of effort. Whereas on Mondo's Beach, someone puts out an email and tries to throw out having this midday alcohol event, and no one does enforcement there. So again, if there's a carefully thought out event, it may be different than what's happened before. It pushes some people's buttons, it raises questions, but I think it's worth maybe trying it. And but just knowing that it's a city parking lot, so that's where you guys get involved. And if it was going to be inside the pavilion, I guess there'd be just a few different variables. So maybe, I mean, I'm less concerned about a 2-day event, even though it's like out of the ordinary for anyone living around here. Then I don't like the vape forest. There's things I don't like that we have 365 days a year in our neighborhood, maybe. And then there are some other events that just, they're not my cup of tea, but there's kind of a need sometimes to just try out things and what works or what doesn't. And so if it makes sense to approve something that moved from an indoor setting to an outdoor, I'm not opposed to it. I would like our HOA to be informed. And just to segue for 1 second or a couple seconds is an example of another thing we weren't informed on is just when the police have this shredding event. We don't know about it. We don't get bill stuffers. I'm in a condo, and the certain bills are all paid elsewhere by the management. Maybe the townhome people get the bill stuffers. But we want to know what's going on, and any variety of events, whether it's like we want to mark the calendar or we want to mark the calendar to be gone and not find out how well or bad that event went. So I think I've hit on the things that come to mind, and now I'm just curious. So I don't know if there's a decision tonight or how this whole thing gets wrapped up, but it sounds like at some point, for it to be a go, there has to be enough prep time, was the message I got. So
Good. Chelsea, thank
Good
you
luck
very
with
much.
that.
Thank you. And last, get to finish this up, Dan Perez.
I just want to say I agree with a lot of people here. I'm concerned about the children. I'm concerned about the community. And also to adult events. That's why this is a 21 and over adult event. That's why the fence is tarped and covered. And there will be no children allowed. Where children are allowed, as I mentioned earlier, at this Boots and Beers on Ventura Beach. It's a family event. Also too, again, the one in Oxnard Beach, alcohol served, but it's a family event. This one, Tequila and Taco, you actually sample tequila. As I mentioned earlier, the Center for Disease Control says every 51 minutes someone dies of alcohol. And all these people are going to these family events knowing that every 51 minutes someone dies of alcohol. That children should not be allowed at those events. On the way over here, I stopped to have dinner, and I noticed that one of the speakers was enjoying a nice 16-ounce Budweiser, and yet he has the nerve to come up here and talk about the community safety. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does staff have any further comments? Anything, Tony? If there's no further discussion, then we'll close the public hearing. The time is now 8. I'm sorry, we do have
one more speaker.
Can I get one of these filled out real quick? Thank you very much.
My name's Rick Kehoe. I retired not after 21 years, not after 25 years. I was 30 years. I worked my way up the ranks, and when I retired, I had 33 parole agents, about 200 officers, 15 sergeants, and about 10 lieutenants worked for me. I've been retired 2 years. I went back and had a little reunion last week. I still stay in touch. My main concern, neither you nor Chief can deny, there is no approved state of California measurement for THC. It doesn't exist, and there's no way to know, and I'll tell you how they get around it. A little bottle of Visine. Okay, when you're dealing with parolees, you got to deal with everybody's tricks. A guy can go through and go through any one of these marijuana tents and smoke as much as he wants, and he throws a little Visine in his eyes. His eyes are white. The only test right now that we have is a visual sobriety test. Correct, Chief? That's all we have. And if you don't have probable cause to stop him because he has no red, watery eyes, marijuana doesn't always make you slur your speech. It doesn't always make you stagger. But you can be high as a kite, and you will get in your car, and you might go down the street, and then the city is liable. I'd just like you to think about that. Thank you for taking me. I'll fill out my form.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, now the time is 8:06 for closing this meeting. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yes, I just wanted to cite for the record that the council did receive and has copies of 2 emails that were sent in on this matter. I think actually both of these gentlemen actually spoke tonight, but we received an email from Rick Kehoe and an email from Roger Mason, both of whom were expressing opposition. These are in the record and will be part of the record.
Thank you very much. Okay, so without objection, we will now close the public hearing, and we have before us a recommendation. Do we have any more comments before we take a vote?
I do. Yeah, I do, please, if I may.
You may.
Thank you for the community coming out and voicing your concern. As I look out into the audience, it's a whole different group of people that are here from the last time we reviewed this item. But we need to take into consideration what you mentioned. And thanks for making the time here on Monday, July 1st, to come out in the evening and voice your opinion. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I just want to say that recently I went to a concert at the Santa Barbara Bowl, and one of my questions to the security personnel is like, because I'm interested, I'm a city council member, we're here in the city of Port Hueneme, and we're in this new arena. And so I asked the security, so what's the deal with marijuana? He said, oh no, it's off limits, you can't consume marijuana here. Just go into the concert, and just so happens the band that was playing is called Revolution, and they have a lot of pro-cannabis music. And I've never seen so much smoke in my life. And, the standard is if you're consuming, you'll be asked to leave. Well, everybody was consuming. It was crazy. It just blew me away. So my issue is the consumption part right now. I think the farmer's market would be great without the consumption, and the consumption kind of changes it. And again, if it's off the table because there's no consumption, then is it really a farmer's market? I can see why consumption, would be a good tie-in, but like I said, you can't go to a liquor store and buy a bottle and sample it and open it and drink it right there in front of the liquor store. You just can't do it. Everybody's accustomed to that. And so I would like to, if it's possible, I would like to see a proposal without consumption.
I want to also thank the residents of our city who came out and voiced their feelings about this particular event. I didn't see you, I don't recall seeing any of you at the first meeting where we approved the event for the pavilion, but nonetheless, maybe some of you were here, but nonetheless, I know that it changes the dynamics a bit by moving this outside the pavilion into a more public arena. But when the city council envisioned going to cannabis and allowing cannabis businesses into Port Hueneme, there was a lot of fear. People were concerned about the proximity of these businesses to schools. People were concerned about the children. People were concerned about the increase in crime. And there was a lot of concern expressed to the city council at that time. I was not on the city council, but the voters ended up going to the polls and voting for this. And the fears turned out to be pretty much unfounded. We've seen crime actually go down. We've seen that the cannabis businesses have been doing their due diligence to ensure the safety and security around their facilities. I know people don't like change, and it's really hard. We are right now going through a social experiment with cannabis. We really are. And we are on the forefront of experimenting with this particular event. And it's either going to succeed or we're going to find some lessons learned in terms of determining whether or not in the future we will have these events. I think my position still remains in favor of hosting the event. I don't know about the cannabis consumption. I think would be fine considering the regulations and the parameters that have been established. But if this event, comes out with some serious lessons that we need to learn, we will be back here to revisit that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm concerned in that this is the first time you folks have heard about it, and that there was a very short notice that you did find out about it. Any kind of a event that affects a small community like ours, we're not Los Angeles. We should be able to get out to the community and let people aware of it, and let people be aware of what we're doing, and being able to comment on it, because this is our community, and I think it's important that we maybe work to do a better job to get the word out to everybody, so that whether it's an event you're in favor of it or against it, you at least have a chance to provide some input. I'm a little concerned about that.
Okay. Any other comments? I'd like to thank you all again for coming, making your comments. Not happy about you applauding every time. It slows the game down. So we're not supposed to do that. Cheer or boo, either one. So, but I appreciate you guys coming out. You've all made some very good points, and we do value your opinion. So thank you. So the recommendation here is to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme deeming a temporary event exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act and conditionally approving special use permit number 0819 Darvita Cannabis Farmers Market event located at 550 East Surfside Drive, and to authorize the Director of Community Development to file a notice of exemption for the project in accordance with provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act. May I have a motion and a second?
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve,
I'll second it.
and I have a second. And now I will take a voice vote, please. So is that an all in favor vote, or one at a time?
Excuse me? No. Excuse me.
Excuse me. Let's do a roll call vote, please. Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Gama? No. Councilmember Munoz-Schnapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Rollins?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Hernandez?
Yes.
Mayor Burke?
No. So we move on. Thank you very much. City Council business items, City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. We have an item tonight for the Council's consideration regarding a resolution of support that has been brought forward by the Southern California Gas Company. We have a guest from the company there tonight, but first we have Mr. Joe Tanner, Interim Deputy City Manager, is going to kind of give us a quick overview of what this is all about, and then we'll turn it over to our guest.
Yeah, first, thank you, City Council and Mayor. I'd like to introduce Maria Ventura. She's a representative from SoCal Gas. She approached the city, and I think she's met with all council members at this point. She has met with myself and Councilmember Rich Rollins in a meeting where we discussed what the issue was moving forward. She has a little bit more detail and explain how it works, but basically that she'd like the council to consider all energy options for California to move forward with becoming more sustainable, not just electricity, but making gas as part of that conversation. So with that, I will turn it over to Maria to explain the program. Thank you.
Welcome back, Maria.
Thank you. Good evening again. My name is Maria Ventura. I'd like to thank the mayor, city council members, and city staff, city manager for this opportunity, and also Port Hueneme residents for this opportunity to speak before you today. What I'm here tonight is to ask the council to consider a resolution in support for a balanced energy perspective or aspect as we look at our energy needs here in Port Hueneme and in Greater California. As you may have heard or seen, there are some in Sacramento and other regulators and some legislators who believe the only answer to addressing climate action challenges we have or reducing greenhouse gas emissions is by going all electric. What I mean by that is, let me get more basic what that is. That means that every person would have to replace their natural gas stove, their natural gas water heater, and all their other appliances that are natural gas. But if we look at different options that are available, we have information that I passed out earlier, and it's SoCalGas has pledged to be the cleanest natural gas utility in the nation. So how are we going to accomplish that? And very briefly, I know it's been a long evening, so I'll be pretty brief. So natural gas can also be renewable. We know that electricity can be renewable from sources like wind and solar, so can natural gas, because natural gas is methane. And methane is occurring all around us. So if we capture that naturally occurring methane, a lot of times our cows get blamed for it and other sources, wastewater treatment facilities, landfills, capture that methane, clean it up, and put it into our pipelines. That's renewable natural gas. And if we were to supply just 16% of our natural gas with renewable natural gas, and I'll repeat that, 16%. So what was happening is instead of having to extract natural gas from underground sources, that 16% never was underground. It was this natural emitting methane. By doing that, we can have the same impact as reducing greenhouse gas emissions than going all electric. And why does that matter? Because of cost and customer choice. Over 90% of people have natural gas and they also have electricity. That's a balanced approach. And let me be clear, if you want to be all electric, that's your choice as well. You can do that right now. So if we were to mandate everything being all electric, that's including businesses, that's including homes, that would cost the first year for the homeowner $7,500. You're replacing all your appliances. You may have to upgrade your electric panel, and additional costs because we know electricity is more expensive than natural gas. With all that in the back of the mind is, can we say as, I've never been a local elected official, but I can imagine why would a local official want to take away their kind of toolbox, their toolkit with, I only want one option? That's counterintuitive. So what this resolution is saying is, as a local decision maker, is you would like to have discretion to decide, you have stakeholders, residents here, what's the best fit for your businesses here? What's the best fit for your residents? Taking into account cost, taking into account customer choice, and also energy reliability. We have been, Port Hueneme was actually very fortunate, knock on wood. Ventura County had several natural disasters the last few years. Think about a future time if we have a natural disaster and there's only one energy source. That's something to really think about. And most of the time, really putting all your eggs in one basket isn't the best option. Thank you.
Thank you. So any questions, comments?
I'd just like to make a comment. I lived in Hawaii twice in my life, and most recently Kauai, and what's really interesting out there is a lot of people are on electricity only, and their electric bills are like $1,000 a month. I mean, it's crazy. And propane is used in place of natural gas, and it's so crazy because a ship comes with propane 5-gallon tanks once a week to keep the island on the propane, and then they take the empty tanks back and then fill them up and bring them back again. So it's a different perspective, but you see that natural gas does have a place in Kauai. And I do know a lot of people that their electric bills are just really, really high out there. So I think I like natural gas. It's clean burning and does a really good job. Thank you.
And it's becoming more and more renewable all the time.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions? Okay.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, so you have a resolution that has been presented by Maria and her team, and the request would be that you approve that if you're in agreement with what was presented tonight.
Can I get a...
I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sounds great. Okay.
It's on 9.
Mayor, before you go on to
Oh, you don't
council
have that?
comments, I know a lot of you today were involved, and I appreciate your quick responses in the email exchanges about a meeting, a special council meeting on the 9th, Tuesday the 9th, a week from tomorrow. A couple of you got back to me and said that 4 o'clock would work for you, and I just wanted to make sure that, because we initially said 2:30 on the 9th, and a couple council members could not be there that early, but could be there with a 4 o'clock start time. And again, we're thinking about 90 minutes for that, no more than 90 minutes, so you would be done by 5:30.
So
Is
instead
that
of 2:30, it'll be,
start time of 4 o'clock? So I just need to, well, I've got you all here. I want to,
And that date again was?
Tuesday the 9th, so a week from tomorrow. And this relates to the strategic plan effort.
I know, I'll just say I could do 4. I originally said I could do it at 2:30. I can't do it at 4.
You are okay? All right. Anyone that cannot do a 4 o'clock?
Looks like we're all good.
Okay. And I'll send out a confirmation invitation email to all of you. It will be at the Orvine Carpenter Community Center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Piece of information.
Right, yeah, we'll confirm that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council member reports, comments, requests for future agenda items. I attended a luncheon last week with SoCal Gas, where I got to listen to a presentation on that, very important stuff. I fully support the idea of, natural gas as a source that we need to have forever and ever. So that's all I've got to report out on. Let's start with
I guess.
Councilmember Rollins.
I recently went to Ventura County Air Pollution Board, and they have selected somebody to be the replacement for Mike Vegas, pending, final negotiations. The board got to interview him, and we're very enthusiastic about this new person to fill that important spot.
Great.
I attended the Bard Kindergarten promotion ceremony the other day, and it was awesome. And you got to hand it to an English-speaking teacher that could teach her class how to say the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish. And I just was it was just a great time. I did make one major mistake. I thought there was going to be a traffic jam, so I parked in front of the Ocean Spa and walked down there. So if anybody saw my very distinctive truck, I was at a kindergarten graduation. Okay.
That was a little awkward.
It was for me because I was so excited to walk down to this graduation, and then I had people calling me and giving me a hard time. Anyways, on a more serious note, Ormond Beach has come up again, and I wish everybody who left would have stayed to hear me say what I'm going to say. Because if you're concerned about what your kids are going to see at this proposed farmers market, then get concerned right now what they're seeing on the beach. There's an encampment down right across the property line of Port Hueneme, and there's no less than 12 encampments on there. And why does this matter to the city of Port Hueneme? Well, these individuals are doing things that you don't want your children to see. And just the other weekend, a woman was beaten up in broad daylight at 9:30 in the morning, right to the left of the pier. And these individuals are living in that encampment. We volunteer every Saturday to pick up trash, and I can tell you we're picking up some pretty disgusting stuff. And there's an environmental disaster occurring right there when you have human waste being spread all over a beach. Hepatitis A, B, and C could live for 72 hours outside the body. So, I just hope that we can work through the city of Oxnard and really become stewards of Ormond Beach, because it's out of control, guys, and it's frustrating to see what's going on down there. And so my hope and there's a lot of information coming into the council, forwarding it to the city of Oxnard, but I just hope that we could all take control of our own environment and take care of it. If each one of us just do a little bit, we can improve it. But we got to deal with this problem. We can't have these people coming into Hueneme causing problems, and it's happening on a daily basis. This Saturday, we're really excited. We had 36 people show up to do beach cleanup, and we provide them with a bucket and a stick. And the reason why we do this is because it's good risk management, and we don't want people bending over and picking up things, hurting their back or hurting themselves by picking up a needle, a condom. Cigarette butts, unbelievable. We're picking up so many cigarette butts, and so
Especially with the price of cigarettes.
I don't know, who are these people smoking? But, apparently they come in and throw their cigarettes butt around. So if anybody's interested in joining our weekly event, it's Saturday. We meet at the Alaska Memorial at 8:30 a.m. And we would love to see 30 people every weekend, and because we are making a big difference for Hueneme Beach, and it's just it's a good way to start your Saturday morning. And that's that.
Sylvia.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the annual meeting for the California Joint Powers and Insurance Agency happens in a couple of weeks on July 17th, and the conference that they're holding is in October. So if any of my colleagues want to go to the conference, you can make your reservations now. Nice location and awesome speakers and theme and topics and everything like that. So that's coming up. No meeting for the Point Mugu Regional Airport Authority, and that is something that the City of Oxnard coordinates. The Port Hueneme Water Agency, so the next meeting and the one probably after that, we'll be dealing with a 2-year budget there. And just happy to report that Councilmember Rollins is going to be the PHWA representative to the Association of Water Agencies Board. So that was something that they requested at our meeting that we held, last week or 2 weeks ago. And because they can't take the ex officio member, they realized that that was probably not the case, then Rich would be appointed as the representative. So that's a good thing. And then the Ventura County Council of Governments, so I was joined by Councilmember Rollins and Councilmember Gama at an event a couple of weeks ago in Thousand Oaks. And the spectacular thing about that is that we were able to tour the, what do we call it, the Rams training facility, and which is really off limits and behind the fence and all kinds of other things. Very secure location. Of course, the Rams weren't there, but we got to speak to folks that actually have worked for the Rams organization and the family for a number of years, and had the operations manager then come alongside as we walked down hallways and looked inside their, whether it is their training facility with all their weights and everything else, to their meeting rooms. And it really was, and the cafeteria we saw, as well as their outdoor grass area that was getting all cut up and all, so that they could resod and be ready for the team coming in. It was pretty exciting, and this is something that really showcases how innovative and creative communities can be in order to attract teams like this, because you're talking about people coming in, and they said almost 200 staff people that they have. Many of them are year-round, and that's not even including the players. And all of them could consider possibly living in the community or living within driving distance to it. They really do support living in the community that they're in. And it was a creative way of taking on one of those hillsides that, when I remember going to Cal Lutheran doing my MBA, those hillsides were hillsides, and maybe you saw CLU on the hill, but they've actually taken and created just this wonderful village of where folks could live as well as then the training camp and the sports aquatic center, and all of that is just dynamite. And the operations manager talked about how there was a phone call that the CLU president made to one of the higher-ups of the Rams group, and really kind of, sent over that laurel branch, that says, hey, if you want to come help and live and have your business here in Thousand Oaks, we welcome you with open arms, and you can actually talk to us at Cal Lutheran. And so the city then worked really speedily to get everything done and all the permits done. And this location is not a building that went up like this building here, but they're module centers. It's all modular what they put together, and then of course then the fields. But it was really exciting to walk through then these hallways that you think, these are hallways of champions,
And how quickly they can do it.
Exactly.
When they put their mind to it, boy, how quick.
Yeah.
I forgot how many months it took to do this full operation.
And so this was the annual meeting for VCOG, and it was well attended. I think there were about 70 folks or so, and pretty much everybody took them up on the tour. And we had Al Adams did a bang-up job being the MC and pretending he was Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show, and interviewed different folks from the Sheriff's Department and Cal Lutheran that are working together on the gang reduction program in Thousand Oaks, particularly in a couple of communities, so they spoke about that. And we had the Cal Lutheran provost there speaking about what was going on within the university. Just a great place. VCOG always hosts wonderful annual meetings, and Thousand Oaks really did an awesome job to host all of us. And a couple of jokes, right? We soon forget. And then on VCOG, though, there's two issues that are of primary importance. And one of them is called SB 5, Senate Bill 5. Right now it's the replacement to RDA. So a couple of years ago, the state of California realized, hey, we need to really help the city's disband redevelopment agency. Possibly because the state needed budget money, possibly because some of the agencies maybe were a little different in terms of how they were financing and refinancing development. So they took that away, and now we're actually seeing something that doesn't necessarily replace one-to-one, but it is a step in the right direction. And so SB 5 is being supported by the Council of Governments, and if anybody really wanted to weigh in, now's the time to weigh in on that, and so they'd appreciate that. And then there's SB 330, and this is the real concern. This is the Housing Crisis Act of 2019. And even with the amendments that were done on June 12th, VCOG is vehemently opposed to SB 330. And it really puts all kinds of provisions on trying to meet or take on this housing crisis that we have in California. But it's done in, in a different kind of way that would not necessarily benefit governments like ours. So they strongly suggest that if you want to weigh in on that, you do that now. Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. Okay. Laura?
Yeah, thank you. While my fellow council members were getting a grand tour of the Rams facility, I was getting a tour of the Tolan Road landfill.
So, wait a minute.
It was actually, I really enjoy seeing, there are a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of engineering, and there's a lot of trash. It's interesting, they take all our trash here from Port Hueneme, so it was really interesting to see how that whole operation went. But yeah, I kind of wish I had been at that. The other thing I wanted to ask about is when we're going to have Brian Brennan come and present on the sand issue. I know you mentioned that you were working on a PowerPoint. I don't know what that was for, if that was for us here, or if you've done any work yet in arranging for Brian to come and present to our city council. We haven't really talked about that yet.
And the meeting, I believe, is July 15th on, right, the Beacon meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's our next city council meeting.
Next city council meeting.
Beacon is,
on Fridays, right?
yeah, it's on Friday. It's coming up on the, in a couple of weeks.
I think we should I'll make contact with Brian and,
It's not the 19th.
The 19th?
Our meeting is the 19th.
Okay.
Beacon meeting. But I would like to request that that item be put on the agenda, an invite to
Yeah.
Brian. Okay.
and then PowerPoint is coming together, and I recently got a tide book so that when the highest tides show up, we could go and see what happens down on the beach. And last night was not a real high tide, but it was high, and a little bit of water did start coming over the top at the highest point. It didn't really fill up that lake, but it's still going to be an issue for us moving forward. And so, yeah, we'll get with Beacon and try and move forward on agreeing on the problem and what we're going to do in the future.
The lake has reduced.
Yes,
in
it
size.
has, very much
For
so,
sure.
yeah. It has.
I think our objective here is just to get clear on what the problem is and where we need to go to find a solution, how we're going to all agree to the right solution, and involving all the partners, everybody who has a stake in this.
Right, and Mayor...
Making sure we're all working from the same premise.
Right, and Mayor Berg's got a perspective too with the RD, what is it?
The RDP 21, right.
RDP 21, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, we'll look forward to that.
Okay. Can I reclaim my time back, because it was my turn?
Take all the time you want.
All the time you want.
Because I see Councilman Gama wanting to talk more, so.
There is one more thing I do want to bring
up.
Sorry.
Yes. No, it's not
You
your
may
turn.
continue.
Yeah, I'm continuing.
I'm going to be quiet.
Jeez. Okay, so before I close with wishing everybody a happy 4th, I just want everybody to think about the vote that we took tonight regarding this cannabis event and what it's telling the public regarding our willingness to host such an event to our beaches. I think it's precedent setting, and it's concerning to me when it comes to hosting these kinds of events. I think we're going to have a long discussion about that in the future. And then I want to wish everybody a happy and safe 4th, and remember,
Fireworks are illegal.
Fireworks are illegal in our city. Yes, please
$1,000
go
fine.
see the show.
Like those signs.
So, I really wanted to commend the staff and the city public works and everybody that's on the graffiti detail. This weekend, there was a very large graffiti event on the beach, and I phoned in a complaint, well, not a complaint, but I phoned in, hey, there's graffiti on the beach at like 7 a.m., and by 8:45, it was wrapped up, painted, covered up, and done. So that rapid response is something that I haven't been able to see happen, and just the fact that it was such a large-scale event and they were there, they took care of it, and I think we should recognize those individuals for doing a great job. And it just made my day, because a lot of people came to the beach and they didn't see that nasty graffiti. I appreciate it very much.
Sylvia.
2 more things, thank you. So I'll start with the 4th of July, and certainly many of us, many in the city, take part in getting out and doing something in the community, and the fireworks has always been something that everybody enjoys. And so for those that turned down the cannabis farmers market, we just know that we have the fireworks again this year because of the work that the chief of police did alongside then all our cannabis businesses to help support that. It benefits more than just the city of Port Hueneme residents, for sure. So thanks again, chief, for that. And please pass that on to our cannabis businesses and partners. And then on July 6th, Saturday, I'm going to be speaking about the Cristero Revolution, and that is going to be at the Port Hueneme Historical Museum at 11 a.m. It'll take about an hour, and it's a war near and dear to my heart because both sides of my family were involved, but they were involved on the opposite sides. So it's about my book, but primarily about the war.
But ultimately, they won.
Who did?
The Christians in Mexico. It remains a Catholic country.
Oh, you got to come to the presentation.
I have one more thing, too. I wanted to.
Yes.
I didn't want to forget to also thank our Public Works Department for hopping to our last-minute request for a trash bin on the beach to support the cleaning event. I thank the city manager and Don Villafana and everybody with Public Works Department who made that happen. So thank you very much.
And last but not least, just a little couple of thoughts on tonight's vote. I believe I heard him say we had 4 of these farmers markets that have occurred in the state so far. Maybe if we had a little more background, a little more experience, not us, but the state itself, so I could feel a little more confident of how these things work and how they roll out. Also, though, not enough preparation. We got to give the community more notice. I don't know, are they not looking at the website? Obviously, they don't go to the city website, or they would have seen that earlier, but we got to get the message out more so that more people can participate in this. It would, in a sense, perhaps change the nature of the beach a little bit. There are kids out there, there are families out there. We have council members who remind us frequently we are a beach community, and for that reason, perhaps it would have changed it a bit. And, I didn't see our dispensaries here supporting this. These are that's our home team. And where are they? And are they supporting it? I don't know. Maybe they are. I know they would participate. They would have been invited to.
That couple that was in the very back row there is Lonnie and Nancy Jarvis from Safeport. So
Okay.
one of the 6, but you're right, it was just one.
Yes, because I trust and believe in them. But my trust and confidence in staff has not been shaken at all. Best information we get is from you guys. So, let them do a few more of these somewhere in the state. Let's get some more experience under our belt, then bring it back and try it again sometime. But it would have been easier inside the pavilion than rather out on the beach. It does have some unique characteristics out there, and it's a tough vote to make. But that was just my thoughts. Go ahead.
I have another agenda item request. I'd like to have a status report on the Citizens Advisory Commission and the Measure U Committee on where we are with getting those groups on the ground and moving.
Yeah, I can actually tell you right now that during July, they will both have their first meetings, which will be Brown Act training and some commentary and instruction from the city attorney on the role of each of those bodies. So that will happen during the month of July. Beyond that, we are probably looking at September. We'll probably go dark like the council is in August. Measure U will have the first meeting kind of educational regarding what Measure U is all about, how sales tax works at the local and state level, because it's going to be a while before they're going to be in a position to really be making recommendations to the council. Citizens Advisory Commission will be more really defining what they are going to be working on first as a commission. So that'll be their first meeting in September. But
Can you clarify that last point? It's my understanding that we're going to task the advisory group with issues.
that's the way I think it would work best, yeah, that the council will come up with the list of topics, tasks, projects that the commission would be working on consistent with the council's goals, rather than having them running around kind of developing their own laundry list of things that they need to have done, or that they want to have done.
It was kind of what the original understanding was going to be as we recruited folks. I had one other thing to tag along to Mayor Pro Tem's request for where the status was, but finding out where in the budget, how much have we budgeted to staff and all of that for both those committees? So just an update perhaps on your manager report. Thanks.
I was also going to suggest that the members of both those committees be invited to participate in our strategic planning workshops.
Right.
Okay. Councilmember Ghana.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez asked to place the advisory committee on the agenda, and then you've given us information that we didn't have before. However, I would just like to reiterate that I think we should have it on the agenda, and so that we can have a discussion as to how are we going to develop the issues that we're going to hand off to the advisory commission, because I think that could be, with August being dark, you know, we might want to start thinking about that, because that to me is probably pretty important.
Good.
Okay, good.
Okay. If there are no more, I have a, yes, it's time for speaker cards.
See that?
Speaking of
I
the
didn't remind you.
citizens,
Put me on the agenda from now on. Thank you. About the cannabis thing, being involved with it since it started and living at Surfside 4, I was between a rock and a hard place here. And then it dawned on me, wait a minute, I bet 90% of the people that would have gone there and bought, since you're not going to do it, they're going to go right back to the dispensaries where it's still controlled and the city's not going to lose any money. So I think that's a bright side to look at it until you get it all figured out. But the people that live around there are very compassionate about it, and I think you scored some points tonight on that. As far as no cannabis people showing up, basically, I had a meeting with Z at Wheelhouse on last Wednesday and told him the first one had been canceled. They were planning another one. He didn't know a thing about it. I have offered the city to contact me to post anything of importance that I can on Port Hueneme News, Nextdoor, YouTube, and all that. And I had mentioned to Rod that, and to Christy, that I want to get together with her, so we'll set up a system where everything that she puts on the website that is appropriate, she can automatically send it to me, and we'll post it, and it'll be out into the community. And so really want to, you know, people don't go to the website that often, and it was proven tonight. And these people were here from Surfside 4 because I let them know about it. And I live there. I did not get a bulletin, you know, because I might live 10 feet outside of, you know, that area. So we really need to work on that.
Okay.
So if I could add to that, and maybe it is where your contact becomes part of the media list that receives all our notices.
Right. And Mr. Green, I think tonight, I don't know if it was left off the agenda, it was supposed to be a talk about the smelly air situation. Usually I've gotten in touch with you, but I was so busy I didn't. But anyway, there's nothing new this month to report.
That's why it's not on. Kevin Spaulding of my office, who fronts it, he said there was nothing new, so we didn't put it on the agenda.
Yeah, we're still waiting to get the sensors finalized on that. So we'll get back to you in September, or if something comes up, I will let you know and we'll put all the information out. Stephen, you mentioned Ormond Beach, and a lady has put together a Save Ormond Beach 2019 committee and has started looking at Ormond Beach. We went down there a couple weekends ago, and there's way over 20 tents and encampments down there now. It's growing exponentially. I am planning to put together like a 60-minute report where we're going to interview this lady and find out what she's got going, which is quite a bit. Going to do a video of some of the encampments. We're not going to disturb them, just do it, you know, from around the scenes. I also want to put together a roundtable discussion like we did with cannabis. Some of you may have been on it or around it, where we have a couple members from the staff of both cities, Oxnard and Port Hueneme, residents, a couple of them, and the police chief from both places, and have a roundtable discussion so we can get our ideas together and find out what's really going on there. And then on July 31st, I'll get you the details, there's going to be a major meeting in
What date
31st
of
July.
July?
Yeah, there's going to be a major meeting in Oxnard with all of most of the agencies that deal out there. I can't keep track of them. There's so many of them. And they're going to discuss the situation, so it'll be a great opportunity. I'll video that. I'm going to put it all together and have a major report that we can all look at and hopefully find a common ground. And one of the things I'm going to do, I don't know if you guys have heard of Lying Martinez. He was homeless here for a number of years, and he's been clean and living in town for a year now. He has an insight that you cannot imagine. And I'm going to interview him to find out what did those people really, what did they really have on their minds? How did they get there? And he gave me a little bit of preview, and it's startling what they really think, how they live. And that needs to be part of how are we going to deal with it? Because they tried it in LA, they got a hotel, they put people in there, and the people that were working there got sick. The police officers got sick that came in there because of the health problems, and they're still getting their drugs in there. So it's a major, cluster of things going on, and it's hard to come up with an answer. So hopefully getting us all working together and get the insight from somebody that's been there will help.
Look forward to seeing that interview.
Well, it's going to take a month to do it, but I think it'll be hopeful and get everybody on the same page.
Look forward to that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. No other comments? We will adjourn to our special meeting, July the 9th.
Yeah, it looks like Tuesday the 9th at 4 o'clock at the Community Center.
Community Orvine Carpenter, and then our next city council meeting will be on July 15th, right here at 6:30. Thank you. This meeting's adjourned.
He already punched it in.
I have to remember that kindergarten thing next time I park in front of a